So now I know the dude who books all the shows.
Okay, I'd like to call this public hearing for the town budget to order. First thing I'd like to ask is those who are on remote participation through Zoom to please mute your phones until you are asked to speak. So our procedure of the public hearing is going to be your presentation from the town council, finance chair Bill Solms on the general government budget, and then we hear the presentation from the board of education finance chair Mike Braun. After that, we'll open the floor to comments. For those who are participating, we'll ask you please enter into the Zoom, participate, and then we'll call you at that time. Then you need to provide your name and address. I also would like to turn on the public comment. The only thing on the budget. Any other topic for discussion. With that, I will ask Roxanne to do the call of the meeting.
The legislature will conduct a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Monday, April 26, 2021, to receive comments and recommendations regarding the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. This public hearing will be a hybrid format. Please join the public hearing in person or remotely from your computer, tablet, or smartphone as follows. In-person attendance will be at Ledger High School Auditorium, 24 of Ledger, Connecticut. COVID-19 masks and social distance protocols must be followed. Remote Zoom video conference. Interested persons and written communications to town@ledger.org. Copies of the proposed budget will be available on April 20th in the town council or on the town's website. This was published on Monday on April 18th, 2021, for the Ledger Town Council, Linda C. Davis, Chairman.
Thank you, Roxanne. I would add at this time is that we've been having remote meetings so much that we forgot to do all this stuff. So I will add that we all rise to join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, one United States of America, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, we will now open the floor to the presentations.
Good evening. It's been quite a year. I'm Councilor Bill Solms. I'm Finance Chair for the Ledger Town Council. We have a brief presentation this evening on the budget, and I will jump into that right now. Should have practiced on this computer. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but this seems frozen. Should I use this mouse? Okay, got it. Thank you. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so this year's budget is comprised of $60,295,000, $295,817. Again, $60,295. Let me start again. $60,295,817 represents an increase of 0.27%. The general government budget, which is the town side, is $26,623,848, a decrease of minus 1.2%. The mayor reduced $791,000 from the department proposal. The council reduced further reduced to $77,000. Total reductions were $868,623. The Board of Education budget is $33,671,969, an increase of 1.45%. This budget from the Board of Education is extremely reliable and resourceful. The Board of Ed has made as many cuts as they can, and given that the salaries have increased at least 2%, to have only a 1.45% increase is phenomenal. And on the town side, the same thing. Salaries go up every year, and the town has reduced the budget by 1.2%. So the total increase in the budget is 2.2%. The mill rate as proposed is 33.72, which is a 1.25 mill rate decrease. However, I caution you that it is not as it sounds, and I'll get into that in a moment. If you would like to see this budget on the town's website, there is a long URL here that you can copy down. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that if you want. You can now peruse the budget on your own. You can see charts and graphs. And this is our first year using it, so it has a few things that are not quite exact, but it's an excellent tool for communicating to the town, and so everybody can see how money is spent. So I'm going to move on. We also have a capital improvement plan. And the capital improvement plan is a means of setting money aside or saving money to purchase large pieces of equipment to do needed repairs on our schools, on our town buildings. And I'll give you an example. A fire truck costs over $1 million these days. We set aside money every year so that we don't have to come up with $1 million when we need another fire truck. So the capital improvement plan this year has increased from last year. The numbers that you see, the first column is what the tax levy, that's money coming from taxpayers. Everything to the right of that, proposed from grants and other, is money that is not coming from the town, from taxpayers. So this year's capital improvement plan, we plan to spend $8,430,834. Again, the increase for the taxpayer is only $43,000, despite that huge increase in spending. The major projects on the town side are a $950,000 road restoration fund, which we spent exactly that last year, and our road surface ratings increased very slightly. They're not perfect, but they're good. So we're going to do that again this year. And again, the taxpayers are funding $270,000 of that, or $273,000. We also need to replace the Lantern Hill Road Bridge. What we have in the budget is $108,000. We believe that those costs could go up, and we would much prefer to spend $800,000 and split it with Stonington. But Stonington is unwilling to participate this year, and the bridge, despite its dire need of repair. So we're planning to do a temporary fix. We're also hoping the federal government may send us some money that we might be able to spend on this and do it right, rather than a temporary fix, but we're waiting to see what happens with federal funds. On the school side, Gales Ferry School needs a new roof, and that's going to cost $1.8 million. Juliet Long also needs a new roof. That's going to cost $1.3 million, and we're going to put solar panels on it to help reduce the cost in the long term, and that's going to cost us $1 million. So here is more on major capital projects in the town. The first, last year we voted to approve funds to fix the high school track and make it into a football field and make it into a multi-use facility. That project is complete, and it is beautiful to see. On the town green, you may have noticed some improvements and changes. We've got new electric wiring to all facilities so that we can hold more events on the town green. The parking area for the farmers market in the lower, what used to be the fairgrounds, has been paved with non-pervious, paved with pervious substance, which is actually road millings. So we have a nice big parking lot, and for any of you who went to the farmers market last year, you experienced that. We're also in the process of making upgrades to the Morgan Barn. That's the red barn on the lower fairgrounds, and it's being converted to the food pantry, and that project is underway, nearly complete. And nearly all of this work has been completed by public works employees, so it did not cost a lot of money for the town. We are also undertaking a multimodal trail between Ledyard High School and Ledyard Center, so students can walk or ride bicycles or other vehicles on that trail safely without having to ride on or walk on Colonel Ledyard Highway. We've just completed an engineering study, and we plan to do that with actually the building will be done with federal funds. We're also looking at a sewer line from Ledyard Center to the wastewater treatment facility so that the businesses in Ledyard Center can have access to a sewer line and also expand their properties and hopefully attract some economic development to Ledyard Center. So at present, we have a sewer study underway with Weston and Sampson, which is an engineering firm we've used in the past. And the 2 roof replacements for the solar panels I just mentioned have not started yet. Here's the track and field. Thank you, Anthony Favory. I think I borrowed this from your Facebook. This is the Holdridge Pavilion. You can see the pole barn in the back, which is also called the VIII barn, and that's where we have the Ledyard food pantry. You can see the paved area using the milling. So by pervious surfaces, that means we don't have runoff. When it rains hard, it can actually soak through the millings rather than flow off into nearby brook or wetlands. Aerial view of the same. And you can see on the right here that the paving or the spreading of the millings was still underway. This was last summer. Another view, same thing. And this is getting so small you probably can't see it, but this is the whole plan. And the far left is where Colonel Ledyard Highway passes in front of the town green. Then you have the town green. The small blue rectangle is the Holdridge Pavilion. The large blue rectangle is the former VIII barn, now the food pantry. And it's a pavilion that can be used for many other purposes as well. And then you see the parking. Below the parking, below on the screen, there will be a small park with a gazebo. That has not even begun yet because the fair still has some storage in that area. I think that's it. Okay, so I said I would talk about this mill rate decrease. The mill rate goes down 1.25 mils, but that's due to a revaluation of property that took place, and we just completed it, and it's required by state statute every 5 years. So revaluation means an estimator comes by and looks at your property and estimates what it's worth. And guess what? Those numbers went up. When those numbers go up, taxes go up. So it's good that we were able to reduce the mill rate because that will partially mitigate an increase in taxes, but it gets even more complicated. The increase in the value of homes was greatest in the middle to lower priced properties. So unfortunately, the people who have the less expensive homes are going to pay a larger share of the tax increase. So the grand list, which is the list of all the properties and what they're worth, increased as a result of the revaluation by 7.59%. And separately, town revenue from other sources, not including taxes, decreased by about the same amount. So property taxes for many homes are going to increase as a combined result of the reval, the slight increase in expenditures, the 0.27, and the decrease in non-tax revenues. And that's the end of my presentation. I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bronner. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Soms. So for those who don't know me, my name is Mike Bronner, as introduced. I'm the Board of Ed Chair of the Finance Committee, and we appreciate your attendance tonight. This is pretty much our standard presentation for our Board of Ed budgets. So a lot of the material you'll see is consistent with previous years, which helps. Hopefully with any questions, it's easier to go back and look at last year. This is a subset of material from a roughly 300-page budget that's on our website. and is now also part of the town budget package being put up on the town website. So there's a lot more information than what I have here. And again, at the end, we'll be able to answer questions as well. So as we put our budget together, all our priorities that we work through are based on our issued strategic plan. That plan is actually going to be revised for starting next year for another 5-year increment. And again, there's 4 main goals, and those are to maintain the highest quality programming for academics, of course, arts, athletics, and our ag science program, which is a excellent program. And they just had, we did some updates to those buildings. If you haven't had a chance to get in and see the ag buildings, highly recommend it. Really a great program up there. And again, we also are doing ongoing and continuous updates to any of our instructional interventions, and improvements to those programs as our budget allows. So for the 2021-2022 budget request, as stated, our budget request is $33,671,969. And that's an increase of $482,549, or 1.45%. If you look at our budget breakdown, as you can see, almost 73% of that, actually you can, it's fairly clear. It's an eye chart. Roughly 73% of that budget is salary and wages. We have a large staff in the school district, and that's where the majority of our funds go. The other roughly 16% goes between transportation and operating costs. The rest are smaller increments for payroll, taxes, things like that. But our major expenditure is salaries. So while this slide here looks easy, the budget process, if you're not familiar, anyone on the Board of Education is familiar, we start in September of the prior year working on this budget. The superintendent, the central office, and all the school principals, assistant principals, and staff help develop that budget, again, using the district plan as their guidance. And they work that plan through the fall, and then the Board of Education starts its review and contributions as we get into the December and January timeframe. Everything is driven by our strategic plan. Those recommendations or any additions to the budget have to meet the goals of the students, professional development needs, or any shortfalls in our district plan. Otherwise, those recommendations are, as you'll see, they get moved down here into the considering for future times. We focus on the key things needed to try to keep the budget as minimal as increase as possible. So Mr. Somm stated some of these items. Our key changes for the 2021-2022 budget. Again, we do have some savings again this year from an estimated 5 retirements. We will be replacing those teachers, but we do have 5 senior teachers retiring. Contractual increases, that's the majority of our yearly increase. In this case, this year, just the contractual increases alone are $470,293. We have some increased enrollment for special placements and tuition increases. And then we have some costs here for behavioral interventions and professional development. All key things, especially in this last year with all the COVID impacts to our schools and our students. We are adding in here 3 additional full-time equivalent heads, 1 special educator for the grades K through 2. We're adding 1 full-time preschool educator at Gallup Hill Schools, and that's due to the enrollment increases. And then 1 full-time equivalent math interventionist. Math skills are key, and we find areas where if the students are having issues, especially in what's going on in the last year, let's find a way to bring in that help to get our students back up to level grades. And then, of course, we do have some low-level expenses here for pandemic-related supplies, $20,000. So this is basically, if you look at this slide, you can see what Ledyard's average is compared to the state average year by year. As you can see, we are below state average across the board. going back to 2015 on this chart, but it actually goes back prior. So we actually have had some decreases here in 2017-18, and then we're coming back up again parallel to the state. So if you look at the great education that we're able to provide here, we do that with a budget lower than the state average. So in comparison to per pupil expenditures to the rest of New London County, again, Ledford is at the lowest end. So again, we do a lot with this budget, but if you look at what some of the other towns have for pupil expenditure, Stonington's at 19,117,000 per student compared to Ledford's 15,351. So again, we're very effective with the funding, but if there are ways we can get additional funding into the budget in the future, we'll be able to do a lot more for the students as the programs start to come back full time, especially for next year and the year after. And as you can see across the board, the rest of the towns are all higher than we are. Again, they have different tax bases, different numbers of students. So it's not a one-for-one, but it is a trend that we are on the low end of the expenditures. So the other key part of our budget, of course, besides the expenses, is the funding. As you can see, almost 60% of our budget comes from the town taxes. And then we have educational cost sharing, which is almost 34% of our budget, and that's from state funding. The rest are grants, some of the federal impact aid, and then tuition for non-residents. Again, we try to be great stewards of the taxpayer dollars, because that is a large part of our budget that we have to work with here. So on the revenue side, there's two pieces to our revenue that we work with each year. And the first part is the income areas here. So we have financial aid, which you'll notice this year. If you look at the 2000, I have a pointer, but the town budget 2020, 2021, which was 1.3 million. This year, we're estimating for 1.5. So again, these are estimates when you get to next year's budget, because of course those haven't been finalized. We have our ag science grants. We have the educational cost sharing, which right now we are predicting to go down a little bit, but that's based on information from the February timeframe. But as a total, we're increasing on our revenue side here, just enough, just a little bit, but it'll help offset some of those increases. That's how we're able to have the increase that we have, considering the amount of contract costs that we have. And then on the bottom half of this are just the related tuition expenses. So we have non-resident tuitions. Right now, we're predicting those to go down for next year. Non-resident tuitions for special ed, again, those are predicted to go up. And then the agri-science tuitions right now, the prediction is some decrease, but again, it's early in the year and it's hard to say. So these are all predictions going into the budget. So student enrollments, again, this is a familiar chart. It's also right out of our budget package. As you can see, for the 2020, 2020, 21 year here, we're at 2358. And then the forecast for next year is a slight increase, with that steady increase staying pretty much on hold out through 25, 26. These are all based on state provided numbers, as well as our estimates here for residents. New residents moving into town, existing residents, number of students. As you can see, our number of students are not going down, which becomes budget challenges for each year going on. Okay, and then when we break down the schools at the middle school and the high school, as you can see, fairly steady. The actuals for October 2020 were 761 at the high school, and we're predicting for the fall 769. And then at the middle school, we had 513, and we're predicting 522. So fairly consistent there as far as the number of students to be enrolled. When we get to the elementary schools, again, at the total level this year, you look at where we're at in the December timeframe and where we're looking to be at for the fall. The major changes in the kindergarten area, and that's based on the prediction for the number of new students or new families moving into town with kindergarten age children. That comes from the state report, which again is all based on predictions. And it can change from what we see here in January, February timeframe and actual enrollments between August and October. So to summarize again, our total budget request for the 2021-2022 school year is $33,671,969, or an increase of $482,549, or 1.45%. Thank you.
The auditorium that would like to comment? Mr. Cherry. And I will ask that everybody who does comment, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mike Cherry, 5 Whippoorwill Drive in Gales Ferry. I said earlier when I walked in, this is the first time I've been to a meeting with this many people in over a year. And it's also the first time wearing pants in a meeting. Normally it's sweats or pajamas, so big day, big day. Too much information, okay. Hey, a couple of quick things. I was real happy to see the capital budget make it through the review process fairly intact. The decreases were anticipated, but the important things are there. We've been pushing the roofs at the schools down the road for a long time. They're still in the budget. We're still pursuing those grants, so I'm happy about that. I noted we had a change to the charter a couple of years ago, and that change to the charter requires the town and the Board of Ed to give us a listing prior to the referendum of what things would be cut if the revenue stream we anticipate doesn't come in. I didn't see that in the budget. I saw a letter from the Board of Ed promising to provide it, and I just asked that we try and figure out how to do that before the referendum. The rest is, I don't think there's enough money in the budget, and Mr. Bronner mentioned it in passing, but the data we used for cost per student, we looked at 10 or 12 towns in the county. There's 20 towns in the county. If you add the others in, it's even worse. We're still the lowest of all. We are super efficient. I think that's really great. But I also feel there's some things we should be doing that we're not doing because they might cost more money. If we were to say, we don't want to be the top, we don't want to be the bottom, let's be the middle, we'd have to increase our school budget by over $5 million a year, because we're different by over $2,000 from the means and the medians with 2,500 students. So that's a chunk of money, $5 million. And I did talk a little bit to the superintendent. I said, if I don't want to put in gold-plated faucets and marble instead of tile, what are we missing that our students should get? And I can't help but think there must be something, because we're that efficient. We can't be that efficient. There must be electives or help interventionists at the grammar school level. But I'd ask that we go look at that, and I'd be happy to be part of that team as a disinterested third party. My children graduated in the 90s, got an excellent education, both did well with what they learned here. But I think we can do more for those that we expect to carry the ball going forward. And it's weird for me to get up and say, hey, I think we need another $5 million. But the data is there. And the most expensive school system in our district, in our county, is Lyme, Old Lyme. And they're not at 19, they're at 20-some million, 20-some thousand per student. So we need to take a look. And these numbers included the new track, the new construction. So what are we doing in the academic world, and how can we do more and pay for it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Sir, please come up, state your name and address, please.
My name is Albert Smith. I've been in this town for 43 years.
Your address, please.
Reuven Drive. And I've seen this system go up, 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 all along those 43 years. And it's unusual for a budget to be exact all the time. It can't be. So, and then we have the COVID over this past year that closed down schools, all kinds of workloads, everything. But yet we're still stuck with an increase in our taxes. You know, somewhere along the line, it has to stop. I mean, people aren't making big dollars in this community. They're going elsewhere to make them big dollars. So I can't tell you what you got to do, but you got to cut corners here and there. I used to work at Pfizer's, and I don't know how many times I got recommended because of cost savings, and got a good representative help on that. I mean, and I saved a lot of money. Well, you know, the cost of drugs is quite high. Well, the cost of raw materials and other materials that were used were high. And I found ways to save money. I'm sure that people of your caliber should be able to start saving money instead of spending money. So I thank you very much for this opportunity, and you'll probably never see me again.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to make comment? Is there anyone on the Zoom call that would like to make a comment? Okay. Hearing no more comments, I adjourn the public hearing. Thank you very much for coming.